Listen to this sentence. The elephant remembers and celebrates his dangerous adventure.
What?
Sounds off, right? But why? My grammar was correct. I used the right vocabulary. I said all the right speech sounds. So why did it sound so off? Because I didn't use the right word stress pattern. Now listen to the same sentence with the correct word stress pattern. The elephant remembers and celebrates his dangerous adventure. What a huge difference, right? All right, that example was a little contrived, but you get the point. Word stress makes a huge difference in English. If you place stress on the wrong syllable in a word, it makes a world of difference and not for the better. Hello, language lovers and language learners and intellectually curious folks everywhere. My name is Bakul Soman and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be delving into word stress, or the more technical term for it would be lexical stress. And in order to do that meaningfully, I will be defining some foundational terms that are critical to our discussion. We will talk about syllables. We will talk about exactly what I mean when I say lexical stress. Then I will give you 6 guiding principles to help you gauge where stress might land in a given word. And finally, I will give you 2 ideas to continue your practice at home. So let's get started. The term lexical stress in English refers to the fact that when there is a multi-syllabic word, we don't treat each syllable the same way. Some syllables get stressed or emphasized and others don't. And where that stress might land varies from word to word. Not all languages use lexical stress in the same way. In some languages, stress is fixed. That means there is a predictable pattern to where stress is placed in a given word. According to my research, in Polish, the stress is always on the penultimate syllable. That means the second to last syllable in a word. In Finnish, on the other hand, stress is predictably on the first syllable of a word. Now, here's my disclaimer. I do not speak either of these languages. If you do and you don't agree with what I just said, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to learn more about it. In other languages like Hindi or Urdu, lexical stress isn't really used. It's not a very salient feature of the language. But in English, it's really, really important. Like, really important. If English is your native language, then you learned all these rules about word stress patterns subconsciously. You don't have to think about it. You picked them up as you were learning the language starting in infancy. If English isn't your native language, then you have to work at it. Particularly if your native language is a language in which the lexical stress pattern is different, or it really doesn't have lexical stress, then you need to pay particular attention to this. Because, let me say it again, word stress makes a huge difference in English. Before we delve any further into today's topic, let's define some key terms that are going to be critical for our discussion today. The first term is syllable. For a term that is central to phonetics, it is very difficult to define. Many theses have been written trying to really clearly create a definition, a very technical definition for what a syllable is. We're not going to get into all that today. We just need to have a working definition. And for our purposes today, I'm going to define a syllable as a unit of pronunciation that has one vowel sound, no more than one vowel sound, and it may or may not have a consonant attached to it. Words can have one or more syllables in them. So let's look at some basic syllable structures by looking at a few different monosyllabic words, words with one syllable. The word a, the article a, like a book, that is a syllable. It is just a vowel sound. The word of is also a syllable. It has a vowel followed by a consonant. The word to is also one syllable. It's a consonant followed by a vowel. The word cat is also one syllable. It is a CVC word, a consonant vowel consonant word. The word stop is also one syllable. It has 2 consonants, a vowel, and another consonant. The word bark is also one syllable. It has a consonant, vowel, and 2 consonants. syllables. Okay, so a syllable can have a lot of different structures, but they can only have one vowel. One vowel is a requirement. A consonant is not. Here are some examples of two-syllable words: butter, paper, table, arrange. Here are some examples of three-syllable words: banana, medical, motivate. Here are some four-syllable words: removable, competition, investigate. So how do you measure syllables? In my opinion, the best way is to count the vowel sounds. Not the letters, but the vowel sounds. Because remember, in English, multiple vowel letters together can make one sound. Again, we're talking about phonemes. Okay? So in a word like banana, we have three vowel letters and three vowel sounds. So that's a one-to-one correspondence, but it's not always like that. In the word ocean, there are three vowel letters, but only two vowel sounds. It only has two syllables, okay? So remember, vowel sounds, not vowel letters. When kids are taught syllable counting, they are usually taught to use beats. So that's kind of a more intuitive way. You just listen to it and you see how many beats that word has, like of, 1 beat, banana, 3 beats. Okay, so now hopefully we have a working definition of what a syllable is. All right, let's move on to the word stress, right? I said in multisyllabic words, in English, some of them are stressed and some of them are not. So what does it mean when I say a syllable is stressed? So when a syllable is stressed, it is louder, it is longer, it has a higher pitch, and it has a very strong vowel sound. By contrast, a syllable that is not stressed is softer, it is shorter, it doesn't have a strong vowel sound, it has a weak vowel sound or a reduced vowel sound, and it has a lower pitch. So now, let's review some of those same words we looked at earlier, but let's pay attention to where the pitch is higher, it's a little bit louder, it's a little bit longer, and it has a strong vowel sound. Let's see if you can pick out which syllable is stressed. And remember, stress only comes into play when we're talking about multisyllabic words, words that have more than one syllable. Okay, so let's review our two-syllable words. Butter, butter, butter. Ba is the stressed syllable. Table, table. Te is the stressed syllable. Paper, paper. Pay is the stressed syllable. Arrange, arrange, arrange. Range is the stressed syllable. Let's look at some three-syllable words. Banana, banana, banana. Medical, medical, medical. Me is the stressed syllable. Motivate, motivate, motivate. Mo is the stressed syllable. Japanese, Japanese, Japanese. Knees is the stressed syllable. Okay, so now let's look at some four-syllable words. Removable, removable. Mu is the stressed syllable. Competition, competition. T is the stressed syllable. Investigate, investigate. T is the stressed syllable. So as you can see, the stress could fall on any of the syllables in these words. So how do we determine where the stress falls in multisyllabic words? There are 6 simple rules that you need to follow. I wish. Unfortunately, there aren't really clear-cut rules for where stress patterns fall in multisyllabic words, okay? But I do feel like there are some guiding principles that we can use. And what that means is generally that is true, but there will be many exceptions. So it is not as strict as a rule where most words follow that rule, and maybe there are a few exceptions, okay? These are just general guiding principles, may not always work. If you have a 2-syllable word that is a noun, the stress falls on the first syllable. Okay, remember, guiding principle. Here are some examples. Napkin, tennis, problem, picnic, habit, relish. Okay, all nouns, the stress is on the first syllable. Here are some exceptions. Balloon, buffoon. Okay, just off the top of my head, those were the 2 I could come up with. I'm sure there are many more. Hence, not a rule, but a guiding principle. If the two-syllable word is an adjective, put the stress on the first syllable again. Here are some examples. Witty, silly, funny, happy, hasty, angry. Here's an exception. Polite. Guiding principle number 2. For two-syllabic words that are verbs, put the stress on the second syllable, except if the word ends in ER. Okay? Here are some examples. Attend, refine, define, return, respect, conclude. Here are some exceptions. Listen, notice, balance, challenge, settle, chuckle, happen, visit. Guiding principle number 3. If the two-syllable word is a verb and ends in an ER, put the stress on the first syllable. Here are some examples. Answer, whisper, murder, waver, offer, enter, wonder, wander. I actually have not been able to come up with any exceptions for this. So if you do, please let me know in the comments below. And here is something really interesting about two-syllable verbs. It doesn't happen all the time, but there are many words that can act both as a noun and as a verb. Okay, so they're spelt the same way, but we change the stress pattern to indicate whether we're using that word as a noun or as a verb. Okay, even outside the context of a sentence, if you just say that word and you change the stress pattern, you are switching from it being a noun to it being a verb and vice versa. Okay, let me give you an example. Record is a noun. Okay, what was our guiding principle for two-syllable nouns? Stress is on the first syllable. Record. Okay, if we want to turn it into a verb, we change the stress pattern and put the stress on the second syllable. We also change the vowel sound a little bit. True, I grant you that. Okay, but the stress changes from the first syllable to the second syllable. Record, record, record. Okay, and the reason the vowel sound changes is because now that is our stressed syllable, and you can't have a weak vowel in a stressed syllable. Record, that sound, is the unstressed vowel. Okay, so when we change it to record, and now that is our stressed syllable, of course our vowel has to change accordingly, right? We have to switch it with a strong vowel. So we have the stressed vowel in there, record. All right, here's another example. Reject, 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 reject. Reject is a noun. I reject that statement. Reject, that item was a reject. Okay, something that didn't meet the criteria got discarded. Reject. All right, so you change the stress pattern and the vowel. You change it from a noun to a verb and vice versa. There are many other words like this. If you think of more, please let me know in the comments section below. Guiding principle number 4. In 3-syllable words, the stress could be in any of the syllables. It's the wild, wild west of words. However, typically in English, syllable stress on the third syllable in a 3-syllable words is not very common. So it's more likely to be the first or second syllable. But I did give you an example where the stress is on the third syllable, a word like Japanese. Okay, there the stress is on the last syllable. But typically, it will either be the first or the second syllable. Guiding principle number 4. If a word has 4 or more syllables, the stress is typically not on the first or the last syllable. So it's going to be somewhere in the middle. Okay, so you can at least eliminate the first and last ones, usually. All right, so let's take a look at some of the 4-syllable words that we had already looked at. Competition. Okay, where is the stress? Competition. It's on the third syllable, not the first, not the fourth. Here's another example. Investigate. Investigate. The stress is on the second syllable. Again, not on the first, not on the fourth. Here's another example. Removable. Removable. Again, stress is on the second syllable, not the first, not the fourth. Guiding principle number 6. If the word is a compound word, that means 2 words that are put together to create a new word, like the word bluebird, as in the variety of bird that is called a bluebird, not just a random bird you see that is blue, okay? A bluebird as in a species. That is a compound word, and the stress is on the first part, bluebird, okay? But if you do see a bird that is blue, you can still say, look, I see a blue bird. Do you notice how the stress changes? I see a bluebird, I see a blue bird. Do you hear that? Bluebird, bird is really reduced when it's a compound word, but when it's a phrase that has blue as a descriptor of a generic bird that you see, I see a blue bird, right? Bird gets, because it's a one-syllable word on its own, so it gets that strong vowel sound. Or another example would be blackbird, right? I see a black bird, a random bird like a crow. I see a blackbird, as in the species that is called a blackbird. All right, so now I have given you 6 guide rails to help you navigate word stress in English. Remember, it is so very critical. You mess up the stress pattern in words in English, and it really, really distorts the rhythm of your speech, right? It can make you hard to understand. So now what can you do to actually improve your skill with stress patterns? The first thing I would advise is recognize how important it is. Tune your antenna to listen for that, to pay attention to yourself, to pay attention when people seem to have trouble understanding you and say, oh, maybe I didn't stress something correctly. Start listening for that stress pattern. And you should be able to recognize which syllable is stressed because we talked about it, right? A stressed syllable is going to be longer, louder, higher pitch, with a strong vowel sound. It's going to be highlighted. Auditorily, it's going to be highlighted. Tip number 2, listen, listen, listen to the language. The more you listen to it, the more your brain can subconsciously start picking up on those patterns. Remember, that's how babies learn it. They don't know the 6 guiding principles. The more they listen to it, the more they just recognize, oh, in this word, here's where the stress should be. And adults can do exactly the same thing, but you have to listen to the language to be able to do that. And now there are so many different avenues for these, right? Streaming services, movies, podcasts, audiobooks. I mean, there's a world of newscasts. There's so much English that you can listen to in the world. So there really is no excuse for you to not listen. But if you want to take your practice one step further, here's what you could do. Pick a podcast that provides free transcripts, okay? Here are a few that I can name. This American Life, Invisibilia, Criminal, Pod Save the People. All right? They provide the transcript, and the transcript is essentially just a written script of what is said in the podcast. So what I would suggest is read through it, even read it out loud. Any words where you are not sure where the stress pattern is, underline them. Or if you come across a word that is new to you, underline it. Then listen to the podcast while you're reading along on your transcript. Any words that you had highlighted as questionable ones, pay attention to how they are being produced. Rewind, repeat along with the person speaking in the podcast, okay? So it's kind of a little bit of a shadowing exercise with specific words. Here's another idea. You could do a Google search for 2-syllable words or 3-syllable words or 4-syllable words, right? Go through them and practice them. If you're not sure where the stress pattern lies in a given word, just Google that word, and typically the first search is a site that gives you the meaning of the word, and it also has a pronunciation link. But if you want a specific link, I have a link in the description below for the Cambridge Dictionary, and it has a pronunciation both in American English and in British English. And it also has the IPA transcription. And in the transcription, a stressed syllable has an apostrophe before it, okay? So if you see that apostrophe before that syllable, that's the one that is stressed. So practice those lists. But please, please, please make sure you know what the correct stress pattern is before you practice. The last thing you want to do is practice an incorrect pattern because you don't want to wire your brain to think that that's the right stress pattern. All right, I do hope these 6 guiding principles and the activity ideas will really improve your stressorities. I just made up that word, and will take you a long ways toward becoming proficient in English. Because remember, making sure you're using the stress pattern correctly makes a huge difference to your proficiency and to how easily you are understood by other people. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.